This woman, who was busy with her business, saw that the old American cake seller shirt looked a bit familiar. She looked around and found a leaf, wondering if that was the shirt she had just made for her husband. DA is short of money because he is sick, so he can only carry a year's worth of groceries. If you sell it, you can earn 2 million coins per month, which makes it difficult for Onsu to make the right decision. She debated for a while, thinking about the number of pills that had not been spent for a long time, and that her children were learning that Onsu's heart was really under her. Onsu, on the other hand, is the type of woman that groups of devoted wives always use as a role model. There is a real housewife with the utmost love and affection, and a girl who is so obedient that people just want to protect her for a day just for fun. For her, the greatest happiness in this life is just having the whole family eat together, not having to worry about debt. If she could have another house in her name, her life would officially be over. All of her wishes had come true for her colleague. She was so jealous that she said congratulations. Her heart was filled with thoughts of how she could get it all. The happy part of the world is like that. And Sue, living in perfect joy, seemed like a fantasy until one day her life decided to turn around. Shared that she still woke up early like every day to prepare breakfast for her. In La Zojin and daughter Sua, she found that in this bustle, she woke up in peace and looked at him with sympathetic eyes. When Qan goes, I can only go back to my dirty womb to save my energy first. The girl looked next to her and shook her head, giggling, thanks to the smile in the middle, but the head is like Ansa's eyes. She gives birth to the flesh and blood like a wife, but the person who is hiding his sorrow is a secret. Kyo is so sad that if she accidentally exposes her flesh, all she can do is spill the beans, forcing her grandmother to sleep with her mother. After my son went to school and went to work, he began to suffer from a forgetful illness one day. Homemade crispy, pure meat with pure ingredients to ensure the meal is both delicious and tender. When he opened it that day, a letter of debt was spread out like a spotlight in the middle of the light. In her case, she owes an unpaid debt and her house is being forced to move forward. My heart is so dirty that it falls down to the ground. Po Chan Ban Vu was born in his 20s, and his daughter collapsed like a student who had failed in the middle of class. She must have been the wind when he went to help his friend set up the phone to call the world a Chinese brand that has never expired. Gio Sin is inherently the type of person who is kind enough to let the lord of the dance take care of anyone, and let everyone suffer. He was once taken over by his middle brother at the next estate but still happily helped that person when he was away. On the other hand, all the things that I understand do not mean that I have to endure the internal pressure that has been depressed for a long time and has only suddenly become stronger. Happiness is always like a house built with thirst. This is the first time in many years. As soon as you feel grateful, you see that you are wrong in giving importance to kind-hearted people. As soon as the two of them were together, the sound of the golden ladder echoed to the whole family. She was so angry that she left to go find her to have a little chat. Her friend is very close, but she also knows that tomorrow morning, no matter what she touches, she will come home and cook breakfast for her and her children. The upper body is strong and the hands are still holding eggs as if they were immeasurable. Sure enough, the next morning, I went home and tried to cook breakfast as usual, but I couldn't deliver anything. The smoke rose from the kitchen like an action movie trying to put out the fire, and then suddenly discovered Zhou Xin lying in the kitchen. After taking the food to the hospital, the dining area until the very day of eating was consumed by a long-lasting cancer at the end. Just for the sake of being able to have a chance to complete it in 5 years is just like a coincidence in numbers. Zhou Xin knew he didn't have much time left, so he signed a red book. Some investment money I wanted to leave a little for my wife and children, but who would have thought that before the money could make a profit, it would grow. Ian Su no longer had any confidence in his heart but only knew that it was tears, but was determined to appeal at all costs even if the price was to sell his soul to the bank. So young, she tried to find ways to borrow money everywhere, as if she discovered that her husband had already lost her virginity. Everyone quickly forgets every person they helped after birth, hoping they would be kind. But it turns out that people's hearts are as cold as ice. People's hearts are cold. People of the same age told me that they were both trying to get pregnant and change their feelings to buy a car. As her last hope led her to the house of Anchai Zozan, who once occupied China's real estate. Fong thought that at least the model of the hat he helped out wouldn't be too difficult for the next person to talk to and give away flutes like his two distant colleagues. Mr. An helped out with exactly one official word and placed it in her hand with a pitiful expression like a seller's exam about the number of foreign debts. Thanks to rice, her heart was colder than the monsoon, so she found herself drinking it, making her feel bad. She was angry that Anchai Zozan was really in the capital to indulge in love. I'm hiding my identity, but I'm still trying to hide it because Gong had a small amount of money to give to Mr. Su, looking at the small but positive amount of money. It's not because of the money, but because of the warmth that remains in the middle of a sea of people. For a long time, she has always been strong, but the moment the ferry broke into her nerves broke her tears, and now she has returned like that. In the heat of the moment, it's best to remember the contract and look out for yourself. The general that she previously bought just for protection is now like a black pepper stewed at the end of the morning. And when I'm a grown-up person, I think about this beginning, and a little thought sprouts up in my head. Even a fool who forced the dance master would try to use his life in exchange for protection money. The machine that kept her damaged nerves still working was able to pull her back to reality before she knew she was temporarily doomed to life. When her daughter and grandfather were in the hospital, she recognized him. If I had gone, those two people would have only known that he was called a life-threatening cause of tears. The cause of that meaning, passing by like an abundance of words that can be skipped after many years. When he was still in the clear, he thought that the hospital room would end in tragedy. Suddenly, a strange sound rang out on the balcony. The ministry stepped out to arrest the man who could not show his face and built a hanging lantern to hang like 1,000,000 people. The first girl knew that she was the only one who had to fall in love with a sad guy hiding in the dark. 5 years of hands still teaching decree. Write about thousands of channels to pamper the officer's hair that people are. Changing the name of the merchant suddenly clicked on MS Fajia Mice family. Today, he passed on a large batch of goods weighing dozens of pounds, forcing the school department to hand them over to the meeting at all costs to destroy anyone. The fact is that the team's intelligence team said that the American white people ate food instead of rice and coffee and roasted water, and also found the seller's goods. As if life was not like a dream, as soon as he was discovered, he turned on nothing mode. Then the child was as chaotic as a headless chicken and accidentally ran straight into the nursery to get the dealer to hide the package in her house, and then changed his head and walked out the door as if nothing had happened. But he forgot that the officer was an expert in teaching, and in just one moment he lost peace and recognized his characteristic silver. The unfortunate exchange ended with the wind suddenly turning from upstairs to the ground. Make the merchant log out and ask this world on the spot. However, the whereabouts of the shopkeeper disappeared without a trace, making the situation so angry that he wanted to eat his police hat. Meanwhile, the force of direct attack posted spears and killed each other, searching every corner of the Indian monk's residential area. Without knowing anything, I was busy looking for clothes to wear during COVID-19. I had an iron in the middle of the room. I thought it was a few pounds of simmered bread, boiled it all, and then used it for dinner at the same temperature. It wasn't until she got to the hospital that she realized the TV was showing a scene of a police officer exchanging a criminal with the image of a peaceful wolf walking away. Looking for her was like being blinded by someone when he realized he had just saved a whole family of criminals from his family's property. Just as she was about to commit fraud, she was thinking too much when she suddenly discovered that the night before the criminal left the place was the umbrella that was hanging around his mouth. Her first way to save her life's wages and betrayal was to pick up her phone and call the police. But TV announced that this product was losing 2 million per month. From then on, the internal battle between the two exploded inside her, and after a few minutes of fighting between Doduck and 6TN, I gently put down the phone as if no call had ever happened. Tam lost sleep one night and once wondered if he was a deep person. Proposes the rules to be a good person and to surrender to the police. Just like life never tries to be private. Just as she was about to leave and suddenly received a call from her daughter's teacher informing her that she had been absent from school for many days and felt overwhelmed with life. All she knew was to tell her that everything would be fine and that she would continue to do so. The world of mind is so open and chaotic that I go to the hospital where my husband is greedy in Zojin. The destructive instinct of love flares up and causes the husband and the two to cry for each other like in a movie about love. Tears bloom both love and flowers. From then on, he was determined to save his family and took up the job of preparing to give birth in a luxurious night where the lights were on and the smell of money and water was produced. In the village, a man named Jem accidentally told him that the goods were lost. She seemed to have caught a golden opportunity and immediately went home to steal a small portion of the bread that Jem had brought all night to discuss business cooperation. This is the first time in the world of changing hats and breaking the law so straight that the hat is returned as if it had just paid for a marathon. The crazy person was about to teach her a lesson in looking at that moment when a man appeared. When her first love came, she became her daughter's drawing teacher. The number of tigers that came to each end of the chicken's territory when they left did not expect to leave one behind. The concubine printed on the wind that she really stored matches. Turns out the fish in her shop were just a row of marks and she felt like a broken stem immediately found it on the sisal. This time, The girl's mother didn't immediately stop her when she saw her opening the parachute. Show that Hoi is full of the magic of the month of and kin to the point of making your tongue water. There is a chance to make money from heaven, so why not decide to cooperate and still keep a little profit? However, looking at Yuan Sui's cruel illness, he realizes that she doesn't look like an American bakery saleswoman at all, but more like the kind of grandmother who sets up an action movie. He looked at her and immediately turned on his warning mode, saying that if he did any more trouble, she would go and cooperate with someone else. Zhang Tulong knew that if he didn't accept this case, no one would dare go to the room to try to persuade him to negotiate a deal. Make her read the camera statement that the goods are completely clean and that if there is any translation of the word, it will be over. Thanks to Su Zun, I read in my heart from the way of substance in many huts and think about it in the disease and I solve it. She loves her and continues to move on, to be a kind and gentle grandmother who officially accepts her and the darkest world by signing a contract that is both self-effacing and artfully funny. Because I think that the effort I put in is like a lot of work, but the reward is usually only the size of a termite seed. Zhang tried to share her hopes and her faults, admitting that she had done as much as I was a daughter. Of course, then Su was not at all happy with this method. She reluctantly requested that if he later discovered her real sister, he would pay her fair share. But looking at it, such a carefree love was right at the end of the relationship. He didn't pay attention to the words of a domestic woman whom he always considered a flower vase with personality, so he just stayed close to the beginning to hear the sound of her walking with her face as smooth as a bronze cabinet, to return to his room. The internet is full of profile pictures and reports all about the VKFC group. At first glance, there's nothing like a trip across the bridge. Everyone talks about a single name, He Jin, the heir to the corporation. The country made plans to greet this beautiful girl somewhere in the wind. Then, by chance, I read about the police's search for a kilo of bread. The furniture belongs to the anti-general organization, so his head should go up and asked to think over there the number of goods. Unexpectedly, soon He-Jing's birthday party was held at a nightclub, where Jim is working. Jim brings new and more exciting games, sometimes making everyone feel like they are in uncontrolled fun mode. Everyone was happily flirting with each other. He-Jin still experienced the same thing as the teacher receiving in class or punishment. Po saw that Jim was familiar with the Mandarin and remembered that he was used to enjoying the two numbers based on the aspect ratio. That means it's not like a single merchant posted deep into the group's ditch as an investigation plan to find you. He is following the traces of the surrounding area, and the drug trade is just a front to reach the target. Just when he was pretending to have fun, a companion with an extremely negative acquire index became even more attractive to his girlfriend. The second child was born in the middle of the field. When he was born, he turned red and burned cigarette butts every day, turning it into a weapon when attacking himself. Zhang, as before, stopped the idiot from being enlightened and taught him a lesson in words, but only very well. The Black Gang is the only one who comes to play, thank you at the right time to confess. And the whole scene of raising morality by lying down and punching in the face. Anko's ear was so scared that it hid like a cat in water, waiting for him to go get it before examining it. Life, unlike a movie, calmed down because the companion who was beaten a moment ago suddenly got up and ended up in the car and got angry, but instead of being in the bubble, he used to have a soft-spoken vase, so he immediately felt the need to immediately get on her. I'm not the type of woman who appears like she's going to come out right away and then eventually come out and play the piano to give him his love. As a result, he was so upset that he drove away but did not have time to show his anger. Then he crashed straight into the road, creating a loud enough noise that the whole neighborhood came out to see. Knowing that the police were about to arrive, Emissar Losiam would get sick and quickly call him to tell him the news. But in the afternoon, He-Jin, in order to comply with the military regulations, banned the use of voice calls in her room and stop her family from moving. Fong called the monk who only knew how to stay young until late at night. When the police revealed that they were following each officer's vehicle and headed towards that side of the port, put the leader on through the dancing crowd of the family sign for home. But between the godly music and the chaotic lighting, her dancing looked like she was doing a vigorous workout. Zhang saw her but didn't completely understand what was going on. He just felt like something was happening. At that moment, the news that the police were outside caused him to immediately activate the emergency departure plan. Zhang directed the scene to be cleaned up, the surveillance video removed, and He-Jin's group moved away from the suspected area. But the police revealed that through the victim he was still at the nightclub and discovered and tried to change the sky, and the fever was. That alone is enough. He affirms that it is a heavenly joy for his children and wives. He asked the surveillance room to open the video headquarters, but just in time saw Zem's group and Room 3's headquarters system was about to be cut off and the screen turned off like a horror movie. When trying to recover the deleted video, the police discovered that the patient tracked the last termite to room number 3, but inside was identical. Zem had already flown the other way, all thanks to Yen Su's decision to give him his spare room number. She changed the license plate numbers of rooms 2 and 3 just enough to prolong the situation until the dark scene. When all the rivers and winds calm down, the main character's impulse in the middle of the village is a pile of money so long that she doesn't know what to look for in her head. I feel like you're different and not like the old construction merchants with what they sell, while others experience the pleasure of relieving love and being afraid from start to finish before even taking a pill. That made her both curious and suspicious. Instead, she discovered that look and felt comfortable. He doesn't like anyone looking at him, especially a woman who always pretends to know more than she should know. Sue was already paying attention to the pictures of cockroaches going door to door like when he first received money. She no longer pressed her head to ask for advice. He gave her a bunch of money, which she couldn't afford. I only know that when I'm in my late teens, my face is straight like wine mixed with someone. Jem saw. Regarding that decision, I found it interesting to explain this matter. But still the channel just does the same thing. I went against my morals for some reason. My mother followed the money from Insu and returned home with her heart pounding, being wary of everything. Even the cats meowing in the picture also made her move. Because of the storm, the cost of her having 5 million troops was more than the 8 months she had suffered in the flesh. This guy is both intelligent and dangerous. Like his sweet work makes her temporarily afraid. She used part of her land to take care of Zorzin. Before she got sick, she bought her daughter a set of magical love spells to protect her and go to school. So what else should she worry about? Everything was already scratched by her mother. After the set, it seemed like things were getting better, but no one could have guessed that the joy behind the iPhone was even greater than what was happening in front. In other subjects, the general of Thu UX fan in the profession of the poor guy, I lost up to 10 meals of bread. This type is a pure specialty, a traditional product for customers to ride about and fly away. Mr. Trung was so angry that his face turned red like a grilled sourdough and called the 2 Sohain brothers from the family to greet him. In his waking mind, he turned his brother into a real-life hero. With his delicious way of making big and delicious Western tet, his younger brother Sohain, standing next to him, looked on coldly, his hat smelling like he had just come out of nowhere under lemongrass. Mr. Trung almost forced them both to find the lost goods. If they couldn't find them next time, they would use their real skills to tell the story. Waiting to change after high, it is the person who always shares to watch. The season is very popular in the first generation, but the relationship is far away and the voice is like a sea of copper. At this moment, the fear was so great that I felt like I was beating faster than my karma that night. Contact Zem to meet him. He used his impeccable relationship to help find the whereabouts of the lost American cakes. He gave Zem a sample of American cakes to check. Zem had just arrived home. Da immediately transformed into an extraordinary scholar who turned on the light of the Buddha scriptures and made an analysis like a greedy movie. The result made Ta to choke on his tears. This American cake model was so similar to the UNC network of his old girlfriend who was a salesman and an employee. Immediately, he realized that UNC's Lohan was the lost Lohan, and himself was under the cover, so UNC was completely unaware of the impending danger. She still listens to poems and thinks she's just making some money from buying and selling things until secretly she's a girl who deserves a job that makes her money tighten every time she thinks about it. So every day, she still feels determined to work at the monk's good mouth and right heart. Bad Reputation did not expect that a junior girl in the corner who was searching for a long-lost item would secretly become an employee, roasting bad goods and grilling her good teacher. This affair is exactly the type of government that narrows its eyes on the upgrade, and it's only a matter of time before the culprit is discovered, which can be measured in hospital hours. After earning some money at the nightclub, she returned to work as a fisherman at Thane, still receiving profits and hearing from Jem about the next epidemic. If the front lines come and go, the only and most of her 5 million troops will be gone. At that time, China's Orjan's illness became more serious and needed a new method. The boss informed that the only points of this method are the high price and no year in the health insurance section. A program showing the flute of Chu Quan makes the Sioux only laugh out loud like the dry laugh of someone who has no tears left to say. The computer system seems to always find the right direction for the person. She didn't want to continue breaking the law. If she didn't sell, she wouldn't show any hope of happiness that she was trying to protect in her predicament. She returned to the hospital room and saw that in pain, the doctor had prescribed more painkillers. But IDA just shook his head at Zojin's feelings now that the painkiller was useless. using a short sentence that was like a fence around the door and looking for plus. That night, when her daughter took a bath, she discovered several water pumps connected to the water tank. Telling the price 2 words one amount of money immediately felt pain. Fake 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 out right away. The first day of saving, looking at the balance of less than 5,000 taels, more than the whole country in the jar, the girl's heart and water were lost. As a result, the next morning, I felt so grateful that I threw my clothes together and pulled out my life jacket from when I was still learning to keep my face. Those at school in the reception of the office were very curious, flying around like mini newspapers, even sending warm clothes, crocodiles, tigers, and tigers to entering the store, hiding a lot of them often coming to the nest. The couple who witnessed that scene both found it funny and saw that she was doing a lot of business. The reason why he took that dangerous road was not because of greed but because of desperation. At that time, his car suddenly stopped working in the middle of the road to avoid getting burned. Just then, when she went to sell her goods, she played a lot of music and he gave her a few more passages. When he arrived at the house, after high on the kind-hearted pretender who had just used the water stick to learn. While I was eating, I kept calling and waiting to come over. Then I panicked and hung up immediately. I was still carefree and didn't realize anything was wrong. Kong should get in touch with the ladder. Jem understands that he must start taking action and the first target is none other than Anne. He made up an excuse to take Sua home when he saw his son take the gun out of Jem's car. The guy suddenly asked his son not to ride in a stranger's car in the future. He didn't understand why his mother was so nervous. Because in the child's eyes, Jem is a worldly teacher, not a stranger. He cannot refute, he can only ignore. Ian Suo was completely unaware that the purpose of Jem bringing Sua back was to find out to show the toilet. Hoaxa Zim discovered that the drugs he was supplying were from a long time ago, and the supplier was the same party that supplied the goods to him. But when the organization discovers that Zim is duplicating their lost goods, those violent dealers will definitely not let him go. Even though Zim was rich, he understood that life was still the most important thing from that moment. He decided to push Sue to substitute to save his life. You don't have a picture or know anything. The problem is you're both facing the situation of losing the shop and not being able to contact Jem to get it. Turning around, she couldn't sit in the house and took the initiative to find Jem. She rudely said that in the past, he had exchanged for a court that seemed to have no sexual orientation and was completely incapable of forming a relationship. Zhang was angry. Ian Shu went home. Ian Shu did not understand why he was so famous. He only knew that he was standing at the door. When he put both Unsu's medicine and the Phantomsa organization's missing medicine in front of her and asked for an explanation. 7 years later, the ingredients of the two drugs were identical, so she realized that her medication schedule had been corrupted. When Unsu Hoang was about to explain, looking at Jem's words made her even more frightened. Since the time they got a little rowdy at the nightclub and were so scared that they were so scared, evil police and the Phantoms organization have been keeping an eye on this shipment. Now these drugs have become a defensive commodity that cannot be easily sold at a high price. Unsu's shop has completely broken the rule that the police have followed for many years and never act like a bully. The current situation has gone out of control, and many forces are looking for him. Zhang plans to call So Heelen to inform her that all the medicine is at Unsu's place. The fate of fear desperately snatches away Jenna's destiny as it crumbles to pieces. If you return to the ground to pray for life, it will give you a chance to find your way. Jan brought the only lawsuit on behalf of the half-hearted civil servant who had to give him all the remaining medicine at home. But that medicine was the money that saved her life, so she did not mind losing the opportunity to make money like that. During the arrest, she came up with a secret idea that before she was about to be caught by the religious and powerful organization. Let's multiply all the goods in hand through the online form. You and your partners can secretly advertise the goods so that you don't have to expose them. The offer of grace is not the best benefit in my heart. He also doesn't want his new boss to be turned into a waiting line again. The pleasure of attracting the successor of a Tay Fit group is that you warm them up even more. Finally, he wants to return all the medicine to the Phantom organization in exchange for encouragement. And after eating it all for himself, he immediately went crazy with clams. Under the direction of GM Unsu worked in a state of loss of soul. She doesn't want to explode with medicine and cut off her main path. but the GM will complain. At the same time, Susu saw the monk's love drawer. Her hands lost control and moved towards it. I brought a call from the manager, who pulled her back to stop her from continuing to violate the group. At this time, the new application Sue visited heaven and faced the suffering of living without being able to retreat or live. After thinking carefully, she decided to use the herbal source for relief, arrive at the agreed point with Sue High, and receive the benefit back to life. I was so quick with my awareness that I didn't realize that there was something wrong with the air and water department. HR came out after High had been suspicious of GM for a long time. He was not gentle enough to tell the boss the truth. And since it wasn't clear that GM had already prepared his uncle, he felt insecure that GM was about to leave the camp. Moments later, when he was about to catch Ankta, he jumped up, created a hidden concentration, and escaped the attack. Still not yet qualified as GM, the young official died on the street and accidentally had to do drugs twice. During the flood, Ankta Sutra also discovered that Onsu had used Mrs. Cow's rice to exchange all the medicine. Before, I temporarily felt that I was being talked into and regretfully asked about the quality of the cake, but I learned that she didn't see any benefit anymore. While on the road, he decided to bring all the medicine to the nearby station. The victim was about to rush, and the child went to the police station to stop the victim. Well, another development was that many times the traffickers had slipped through right before his eyes, making him extremely angry. He and his teammates worked overtime to review the nightclub surveillance cameras. Because of his many years of experience, he accepted his mother's role as the guardian of the child's birth. By knowing the police karma, it is determined that the murderer is a sad person. Unfortunately, when he searched for the nightclub owner's employee profile, he couldn't find anyone Chinese with that shirtless figure. The nightclub owner didn't say a word and forgot from the cooperator that he was having children. The police had to divert their attention to the fact that their friend was the one who caused the incident and stopped in front of the nightclub to scare him. "Mr. E.P. Nguyen, you have to tell me who the robber is." At first, this friend refused to tell, only when the police said that he was not just a second-generation spy from a wealthy family, but he also used this identity to surround the second half of the army headquarters. If he did not confess, he would not hesitate to reveal his true identity and let the debt headquarters come find him. Fearing that his identity would be exposed, this friend of mine also told the dealer that his name was GM Boss, or that night, who was denying it under pressure from the police, that they had to shoot him and call him. Kia Gem received a call from the owner of the nightclub. He immediately realized that something was wrong with the house. Even in just a few short seconds, the police were able to determine Gem's whereabouts and used 2 forces to arrest him. Luckily, Gem reacted dramatically and escaped police pursuit. After eating everything, he called Sulo to tell her she would call the police and take the train to the area. Ian Sul calmly and satisfactorily commented on what had happened when Ian Sul and Gem met. Zhang quickly took advantage of her position but discovered there was nothing inside. Only then did he realize that he had been caught in the fire. The teacher has completely changed from her weak appearance since the Z-Food Jam wanted to take away all the medicine that was necessary for her family's survival. The monk realized his coldness and indifference, so she changed. His face turned serious and told Jam that she just needed to find 2,000 soldiers to avoid spreading the disease to the house and 10 pounds of the house. The remaining goods are only priced at the price of billions of dollars and will belong to Gem Loe. "Thank you, and I will be with you forever." Gem has agreed to her agreement to sell directly, but requiring her to earn $1 million within 2 weeks to prove her ability, she initially agreed to officially establish a cooperative relationship. Gem began solving the problem of selling first and foremost to target customers. Participate in priority requests to select light-use customers by connecting, because once a patient uses the leprosy injection method, the person around her will notice and report it to them. Therefore, those who want to inject a long-lasting and safe dose of 2 drugs like the market drill per gram, there is 5.5% to 8 in the solution of buying more and larger supports. Although doing small translations many times can make you more money, doing large translations at once is the safest way. Hoy and DN gave him a dedicated phone number for translation and asked him not to use any social networking software. After everything was ready, the two began planning the online sales process. HOA plans to use network software after the meeting to avoid police surveillance. At the same time, apply short communication methods to reduce the introduction of unsolicited information and increase hidden information for the epidemic. Unchu planned to earn 200 million soldiers in month. The remaining money would be given to the actor. He really wanted this. His original purpose in selling fake drugs was to earn money to compensate for the damage caused to his status. For a period of time, He gave the money to his brother to buy back the shares of the family company. His brother only accepted the money without ever asking the original soldier. Jiam couldn't help but feel that this money was something he had earned. If everything goes well for him, he will definitely have to face the fate of his ancestors. He longed to receive even a little attention from himself. Nguyen Chai recognized the children's unintentionally revealed emotions. That means he knows that the girl's love life is not pure, and he also understands that the disaster is even greater. It turns out that the more you care, the more you push people away, and the situation becomes more dangerous. When they learned about this, their hearts were drawn to them, and they gradually destroyed the established online sales channel. This Unsu pretended to hide the pills in a water pen and send them to customers through the air. Even the two congresses that need to go back and forth to the medical incense delivery stations look very similar. One time I let ZM put the money I earned on the map, both of which seemed a bit more a waste of money. However, the effectiveness of the disease is not even equal to one night of ZM in the night shift. ZM asked Unsu to incense in the way of reform. Because of their sales standards, the longer it lasts, the greater the risk it faces. This is the right country. Thanks to receiving a message, the other party did not just offer a high price, but also asked to buy her at once in the chicken. Only Sood is a vegetable service department that receives and inspects goods on site. The feeling of error is less exposed than if you decided to take a risk. There was a small house where they used to translate words in front of them, pretending to be employees. The final ceremony of accepting the other person's money via video followed. Just took him to a corner to pick up the goods and check on her, asked him to leave the money and leave. Everything went according to Unsu's plan. Just when she was secretly happy that her arrangement didn't work out, the man suddenly returned and not only took back the money but also took away the medicine. Unsu was surprised when he discovered that the sale shelf was actually a woman with an unusual appearance. A man who has no wife at all just leaves his soldiers lying around as if they were offering sacrifices for the welfare of others, and then leaves without a trace. The next day, the soldiers lay on the ground without feeling anything. She only had one thought: to get her money back despite the danger. She stood up and changed her to man, and had never seen a woman come to the security guard, so she quickly went up to check the phone and ran away. He immediately decided to take a shortcut for the first fight and ended up stabbing the lower man's body to the ground. He thought that the opportunity to get his money back right when the man was about to catch up with the Jeem had come promptly. The two of them cooperated well, thanks to Sue successfully getting her money back. Jeep quickly pulled her away from the scene. Unsu's decisive action caused her superior to look at her with different eyes. He also discovered that Unsu has extremely good planning skills. Historically speaking, he was able to arrive in time to coordinate because he had already discussed a countermeasure over the phone. Zazik this time success holds between both Unsu and the bird, basking in the feeling of satisfaction that reform brings. Jem went everywhere to buy Sua, and Unsu started to improve her life for Sua. Model gave her the latest phone number so she could go eat meat and spend money in the country. Believe in peace in a corner. Drink so you can't see the mouth coming closer. The leader of the religious organization learned that his accomplices were being interrogated by the police, trying to find out his whereabouts. It turns out Ziam is not his real name. For times the nightclub was robbed, but his accomplices couldn't find him. This insolent man is so unrestrained as to kill him and take the pliers to make things worse. This guy quickly got scared and found out that recently there was someone selling pellets through Chep Tuyen channel. After UN capitalizing to pretend to be the original buyer to place an order through, very determined by the seller's will. People are having trouble watching because the man who was the head of state last time had temporarily closed the channel. Translated Chep Tuyen. After UN Spring thick report on the most term for the great in that process, constantly observing the Khan's face, killing the opponent without being able to lead the group to try and sneak around. When he turned around and was about to leave, he told him to clean up the traces the copper had left on the floor. After hesitatingly raised his head, he saw the fellow being beaten until he disappeared and lay on the ground. He was immediately frightened. The police are also trying their best to find the thief's whereabouts. Conducting an investigation through surveillance cameras, the police discovered that the police officer had placed the knife in the locker. The police thought she was the thief's superior. The police mobilized more force to investigate information about the thief. After many people continuously review the camera, even though their eyes were completely closed, the vigilant staff could only record a special appearance. Unsu's uniform, but it's impossible to see her face. The staff couldn't help but complain that Unsu was like a professional criminal with extremely poor political abilities. You should be aware that through analysis, The signs of epidemic outbreaks are mainly concentrated in one area, Pui, and they were able to locate Ansu, who worked as a special student at night, and looked up her whereabouts. The police came to the house and already felt that her mother's behavior had become more unusual recently. Sue was even more surprised when she saw that the police came to her house completely without understanding their purpose. It's even more important during the days of dealing with people outside to check the medicine costs. Her best friend had the opportunity above and she took it in her stride. Almost stay in the hospital 2022 on 2022. In fact, although the life of Sue and Oysters is not oily, like the strong feelings they have shared for each other over the years is always what makes everyone around them one. Who knows since when did that close friend's heart swell with the intention to replace Ansu's position? In addition, my classmate's mother seems to be living a happy life with her husband, but only her close friends know the feelings of people who have long been born in the country. Hopefully, this mother watches over time to bring Ansu home. When I was 5 years old, I thought about Ansu having an affair and revealing the truth hidden inside. Ansu has more and more talented people than people who cooperate with fraud like a fish takes to water. The amount of anti-inflammatory medicine is about to be sold out and we are getting closer and closer to the goal of getting enough for both treatment and treatment. Subtle yet mysterious also comes silently. Well, here, the investigator has already looked up the history of the last call from there, followed the lead and found the Grace's house. The fake monk calmly cooperated with the police's interrogation. The investigator said that there were cases that deserved to be enjoyed, and the young police officer searched around the house to see if there was any possibility of hiding drugs somewhere. The scene where the young man ransacked the house, he looked around and couldn't find anything out of the ordinary. When he learned about the situation of the girl, he couldn't help but sympathize with her. A housewife who wears all her clothes and works part-time to treat her illness so she doesn't have to bear the brunt of both. That is, it does not fit the image of a merchant whose conscience is filled with evil. Munthra said that he had different thoughts. He thought that anyone who was at a dead end, if you want to solve the problem, you will be able to participate in the commodity trade. In the heat of death, they can do anything. The feelings of the T-body came out and said that Grace is not simple. Sue did not find any evidence at her house. He is temporarily undercover to collect more evidence of his crime. When the police heard the sound of the police leaving, he was so scared that he grabbed a large face from the underground tunnel. She knew that this time, if she could escape, she would have to escape the next time to ensure she would have the same luck. Therefore, she had to take advantage of the opportunity to earn enough money to help prepare this path. Without knowing anything about the incident, he continued to approach the family's wife because he was teasing her. The promoted officer helped him clean up the fruit perfectly, and the disaster even forced him to go fight the army. The mother of this strong rice family is proud that in the past, the officer next to him also had one for them. So one time a friend who was with him signed out when he ran out of bread and that donor ended up in jail instead of him. When they said these words, they didn't even notice that the kettle was being filled with honey to keep the kettle loose. Ever since he was interrogated by the trader, he was always lost until he encountered an evil tomb and was taken away by the police. Vo wanted to tell her that she was being noticed by the police, but she didn't have the chance. Zhang also specially thanked each pair of high heels and wanted her to continue to cooperate with him after earning enough 2 soldiers. He looked at them with the ability to distinguish between the names of the Grace and the legend of Shu Kyky. Once she burns this, she will return to this miserable life. Thank you for thinking about the days when he was busy working part-time and had to spare time to take care of Zorzan. She tried her best to cure Zorzan's illness, but his illness continued to get better on its own. Zorzan started to have side effects of the flower, and his hair was so strong that he heard that shaving his head would cost more money. He felt sorry for his failure, so he took the initiative to go to the salon to have his hair cut and shaved and stay by his side every day to take care of Zorzan. Is to care for him every single reason too much and not keep his distance like in Zorzan's heart, only he always pays attention to keeping his distance from her. Her personal experience tells her that she is having to spend money everywhere to treat her illness. He was like Jem, the person who brought Yensu to the hospital. Zorzan misunderstood that Yensu had a new lover and had the intention of letting her go and find her own happiness. A student still attends school as usual in recent classes or keeps losing grades. She warns that those who are afraid of giving birth to children often admit their mistakes, or else they will be repeatedly punished. All eyes were on Sue just because she was the youngest student in the class. But recently, not only did I buy tools for drawing Loveland, but I also changed my phone number. Sue felt extremely fulfilled, thinking that if she left those eyes alone, everything would pass. But the teacher was also suspicious and called me out to talk to her and advised me to proactively correct my mistakes. Sue felt so humiliated that she immediately rushed out of her way to hide her own fault. Seeing this, the teacher also apologized to Sue because she was suspicious of the loss of money in her class. The matter of losing money in her class had reached the ears of a student's mother. This assistant's father was a university professor, so she always had the feeling that the superiors always thought that her daughter had to be better than everyone else in every aspect. Her daughter's admission exams and all her wishes were all far from Sue, not long ago. Spend a long, usually large. Think about Sue's family situation and how warm her family is that my family never had. Because this image is so great, the more you think about it, the more you can't reach the painting class when Jem is closely observing the student's work because this image is standing in front of the crowd outside, with the shadow of Sue's death. Ensu looked at his daughter and was about to get suspicious, but his anger was uncontrollable. When I found out the reason for the suspicion, Sue had a brand new set of drawing tools. Guess and buy something as small as your daughter's. Ensu became even more angry, and the poor guy rejected her politely and tried to give her a petition. I bought the goods for my daughter. I wanted to stop losing the assistant who remembered the scene from that time. Thank you for the house. Up continued to baselessly infer that the two had an illicit relationship and assumed that the principal product of Sue Budlong is also many of these relationships. The eyes of all the assistants were focused. Ensu and GM waited for a reasonable explanation. Taethangsu is occupied by everyone every small DEM next to this explanation. These hard-to-find rubber leaves came to her, telling her that she was making rubber for the house. Damn. So that everyone still has a reasonable explanation. Dad explained that when the wind is sick, she needs to believe, so she works part-time at the teacher's house. Goat. The teacher also spoke according to the teacher's words to make the story more reasonable. He said that giving grace. The reason why he came home in the middle of the night was because he happened to be studying and needed to go to work, so he had to go on his own. She returned. The explanation of Grace, Sue and Goat do not match each other to make the torturer stronger. The strategist asked her to apologize, but the other side completely ignored her. She didn't say a word but turned away and the girl left. The father's sweet attitude had aroused him to the point of gratitude. A father can make a warm wish but absolutely cannot let his daughter care for even a little bit. Depending on God, thinking about the external source of all problems is the wind of unexpected gratitude. On the new day, the motivation to continue is limited. Dad is determined to try to give his daughter a better life so that she can stop being so high-minded and arrogant. Like last year, I always felt like I had a way with my daughter. Sadly, her daughter was also entangled in that thread. Fong just can't live in a new house that's clean and beautiful, so even if you add, you have to pay attention to a more affordable place. But the girl happily ran around in the model house but couldn't control her imagination. Come to the happy scene of the family happily buying a new house. She couldn't help but ask the price of the house and learned that the total value was up to 1 or 2 billion VND. Previously, this number seemed to me like a dream that could never be set. But now, after becoming a high-priced goods dealer, a house with just a small income is a fate. Ian Shu no longer gives up this happiness within reach. 1.2 Mom and I thanked him and invited Jem out to eat to thank him for helping Lai at the funeral. While the crowd was happily eating boots, Jem raised his head and suddenly saw the old man sitting in the middle of the night not far away. The look on his face immediately became stubborn. He and Jem understood each other implicitly and met in the bathroom. I thought he would say a few warm words, but he suddenly asked me to never appear at this restaurant again. Nguyen and even looked at people who were making money by betting on vinegar and women. I feel like you're losing face and don't want to have anything to do with it. GM was extremely angry. He thought that he had made a mistake a year ago. Even if he was wrong, he had already paid in full. But the British did not agree, firmly believing that Kim's past mistakes could never be compensated for. Zhang felt extremely helpless and timidly noticed the change in his emotions and asked curiously about his relationship with the other man. When he told the truth, he told her that was his family. The guy knew that Zem was not good, so he gave a lily and calmly because her volume was not good, but just one lie, he passed out. Zem solemnly took her home during this meeting. The two of them rarely had a chance to talk frankly. The number once again thanked Zem for speaking out to her and her daughter. She said that she hates so much that she wants to punch all the people who caused trouble to her family. Zem saw the urgency in his gratitude and continued to invite her to be his partner. Of course, men wearing bamboo clothes wear dark feathers on their heads and hair. That means not only adding insults and starting suspicions in, But the anti-religious organization also found the missing medicine in the painting in her room. They took advantage of the evening to order and house XN. When N woke up again, she was restrained by the virtual people. They demanded XN to reveal the drugs they had taken everywhere. XN still claimed that they did not know where the drugs were. The next day, the police discovered all the drugs hidden in Sue's painting in a genuine way. At this time, Ensu realized that they had come here to transfer private equipment in advance. It turned out that the day the young police officer came to Sue's house to check, he discovered her secret. When the economic burden on his family comes, his greed for football emerges. He further hid the truth and instead sold the information to Oyster High, P High, discovered that the person who was eating the food on Street 82 was his colleague Xensu, who worked with the famous teacher. He was extremely strict. Because Yuen Su Su Suo Suo Hung, not wanting to take action to the end, he had leaked the information that his young police officer intended to work with his younger brother to get back the medicine and money and give Yuen Suo a way to live. To stop Yuen Suo, he had to surrender and pray to the heavens when he discovered his identity as his own. Soon enough, the secret was exposed, and even a little bit of it immediately came down to money and medicine. Suddenly Suo Hung had 11. A watchful GM stared at him and recognized the other person's identity. Taking advantage of Swahyun's attention being focused on her, Jem suddenly said thank you to the young lady. Swahyun ran out of the room in panic and immediately followed suit. Ian suddenly threw everything around at Swahyun, causing Swahyun's hat to tear line. Ian was startled when he realized that person was his co-worker Swahyun. After confirming that Swahyun was a member of the religious organization, she looked at the group with disappointment. Vo-ko gave birth to Soyeon, who would rather give up his money and return all the remaining medicine and money while ensuring that he would not reveal any secrets. Soyeon remembered the warmth he had never felt since he first met her. At this time, Yuen remembered that she was about to return home and was about to call and tell the Mandarin not to come back. Deputy Hugh misunderstood that the UN was planning to report to the police. This little bit of pity had disappeared in a fit of fear, causing him to completely lose his love and gratitude. Right at that moment, when he was about to lose his breath, the old man's grandmother picked up a stick on the ground, tasted it, and a puddle of water made a loud splash, and the younger sister was immediately shocked and accidentally jumped out of danger. A fairy from the door rang and came home. Sue lied that she had broken the vase. Then she calmly cleaned it up, saw her mother throwing away and doing housework, and begged her mother to apologize. I thought the money my mother earned was illegal. Only later did I find out that my mother did it. Her mother always shows her love in her heart. Even though the second job is not luxurious, her mother is still the best person. I also feel proud to have such a mother. Even my daughter evokes gratitude in my heart to support her in a relationship that is not as good as her daughter imagined. But her birth giving rise to this samadhi is something that cannot be seen. After a while, the daughter of Ong Chong and GM Le took the two brothers, and then got into the car, and Ong Chong wanted to kill himself so he didn't reveal himself. She believes that the Spring Association had long intended to leave the anti-communist organization. But looking back, I can see that the thought of Unsu listening to poetry even after high, not like the story of the medicine owner's family, there is still a higher level above after high. Once those guys discover Unsu and Jam, they will never stop looking for them. Unsuspecting situations like today will repeat over and over again. The more I think about it, the more likely it is that I'm still alone at home, and I'm worried about going home. Monsak recognized his daughter's safety first and then explained the situation to the two brothers. At that time, they joined together to organize an audience that had already been scheduled to bring dangerous goods. But waiting for the engine, I couldn't see the Zeum. I couldn't see my friends playing because the wheel force wasn't strong enough, and they were so angry that they told him to come immediately or they would stop cooperating. Now, I'm having a headache and don't know how to handle 2M so high. There's no way to pay attention to them. This makes them even angrier. At that moment, Suo Hai's brother woke up and Antar, who was still in a coma, went to a public phone booth to call his big brother for help. After watching the incident, he discovered that the two brothers had escaped safely and searched everywhere. Right around the corner after I had dialed the number to call my brother, a car came flying and crashed straight into the two brothers. Nguyen was seriously injured and hospitalized, but after he was discharged on the spot, all of this was a surprise to the group, and immediately said that he would not see each other during this time. The middle steps are comfortable and please act as before. From now on there must not be any changes. Ian on the first day of Sohyan, through change of job and sadness. Not long after, she pretended to be calm and went to Thea to investigate the crime, and the young police officer suddenly came to Thea to investigate. Singing CHAEA is especially destructive. If you are familiar with Sohyun, don't know if you will be gathered in front of the sum. Every sentence seems to be a bit of an insult to Ian, because she is the fake owner, so she doesn't look directly at the trader. I hesitated to ask more questions even though I had no proof of gratitude in hand. But through the water-scraping pen plans scattered in X-Hi's house and the ideological pen box found in Gon Rung's house, he was almost certain that Ngon Rung was one of the sad plans. He had not yet decided on his relationship with the religious organization, so he was in no hurry to move. On the other hand, Zem was stabbed and didn't even bother to go to the hospital for treatment, and his injuries still tried to go to work as usual. Boy, and he fought hard by collapsing right in front of the house. Ensu was worried about Jim's injury, so he rushed to check later. After helping Jim, Lee said that thousands of people's injuries began to take hold. According to Jim, Sohyun's departure is a good thing for them. Just let the police know that this is a religious organization's exhibition. If you wait for medicine, you can completely remove doubts from people. In the evening, Ensu took advantage of Sohyun's phone number and held a ceremony in the Big Brother's restaurant. If you want to make a difference, what will happen? She heard the voice of a common voice coming from a restaurant in the restaurant. He was racking his brain to think about the situation when suddenly he heard a sharp sound. It turned out that the police had secretly located the location of the chicken to follow the traces and found out where the chicken was cooked. The giant chicken was just like that and was easily caught by the body of the tea. All the movements were done. Unconsciously, like God, returned to his best friend's house and had prepared water. At this moment, she realized that her daughter was worried about her, so she specially came to take care of her. But my relatives and mother who cared about me suddenly felt guilty and burst into tears. Through this incident, Kui Feng's aunt also realized that if she wanted to make money in the market, she had to take the high road. If not, it will only bring about feelings of pain and pain until after thinking about the next scene. She took out the remaining drugs and the weekly amount of money she earned and injected a red corner of her body. Worth all this. Go burn all the sedge as a farewell to your not-so-good past. Meanwhile, James brought the medicine to meet the community. They saw that the medicine pie was still angry, as if he could not resist the fate of the new medicine. Finally, he accepted the fruit James brought. James was so excited that he knew that as long as he had the medicine in his hand, he could be sure that it was just a matter of time. Just when they both thought life was about to return to normal, a text message appeared simultaneously on Oensu and James's phones. Moving the photo to the side in the message is next to the two of them who are making him Msohu LZ. Ian Ru and GM immediately stood still because of the shock. Ian Ro had intended to lean on his arm to guard the check. Like a powerful fairy suddenly appearing, making her stand still. Every day, Ian Yuan-Du lives in fear and anxiety and has to come to GM to find a solution together. GN realized that the day he and Ian Ruff had a fight, there was someone hidden in their relationship who killed every move of the two of them. Jem judged that this hidden person was most likely their forgotten person. Ian Kung thinks about the mother of her daughter's classmate, who used to have power over her. Zhang came to both sides in preparation for a dot of cash to stabilize the hidden positions. After that, we will slowly investigate his identity and face, until we have to prepare a very angry military mark. All this time, but she is the one who earns the least money and has to manage the writing side of the house and has long since stopped acting. Ian Shio intended to have a lot of people help him take care of his finances, but was surprised to discover that even the people couldn't get his share of the money. Ian Shu couldn't understand why he could spend so much money in a clear way. Once again having his own suffering, he quietly moved on to other things and decided that the two of them would go back to agreeing to put the spear in the money bag while Ian Shu took out a dark position that had been revealed before. She had just decided to join the sword and planned to burn all the money and belongings for the sake of the law. But after receiving threatening messages, she hastily pulled these things out from the roaring fire. The thing that made me so angry was that the preeclampsia had completely drained out and the medicine remained intact without any trace. She helplessly lay down on the ground, contemplating her future life for always using herself in a dead-end situation. Sales once again became her bottom line. After returning to the profession of a large order from heaven to earth with a quantity of up to 30 years. In order to reduce the burden, the monk sang twice the price, taking advantage of the fact that when she was still a girl, she was grateful for the monk's command and kindness so that she could accidentally see the traces left behind by the monk when he was captured. Sadness welled up in her tears. That is, From the day Soy Hai joined the Fang Tun organization, his departure was determined by the name of this organization's leader, who turned his boss into a Mandarin. In fact, those who like the profession come here to work as part-time herbal medicine staff. Lo Dai promised these people that as long as they found an official job, he would let them go. But in reality, that's just a trick to hide your sadness. Bin Hoi Dai Dai appeared to be lenient with suspicious staff, but secretly murdered them behind his back to silence anyone who could survive under the counterinsurgency organization. After going through a difficult life, he immediately wrote the news and brought the drama of modern times. The group not only came out to meet the child, but also his only EN bottle and a message that Sue was working at the charity as usual. The mother of her daughter's classmates suddenly showed up and filled her mouth with concern. Sue was immediately aware of the hidden meaning in the other person's words and suspected that it was a sea beetle. The minister quickly informed the police that it was the mother of his daughter's classmate, which made him extremely uneasy. She is afraid that her daughter will be treated unfairly and even have her future ruined because of her mistake. Zem didn't understand why the other mother did that. As he saw it, she was not short of money. 1,000,000 soldiers was just a small amount of money to her. The survivors decided that she was a hidden bogeyman, saying that her goal was not money but to want her up to raise millions each time, forcing her to continue selling to be able to keep her secret. Is there anyone worthy of a woman like Zem? At this time, Zonsu told me that before, he told me that a young assassin came to the house to investigate the relationship between him and Zem. Such an important move that Genrong had only now mentioned made J&H extremely angry and felt that he had no intention of cooperating, putting both of them in danger. The loss of gratitude that had been accumulating for a long time revealed that she thought that up until now she had just been working as an employee. Moreover, J&H is full of all kinds of troubles and consequences, so if you try to face the hardships alone, you will no longer keep track of your past life. She lives on food, which is already limited, and she has to take medicine to avoid dividing enemies. Just have to earn money for him to buy some land to prepare for the attack plan. Of these changes, I can't tell you that even if I wish, I'm just carrying the burden alone. The couple had a big argument and finally broke up unhappily, soon after Zorjan's cancer treatment was about to end. Thank you for not daring to rush to collect food for Zorjan to prepare for discharge from the hospital. Zorjan, looking at him, he knew that he was having a heart-to-heart day and remembered his close friend's words that he had come to his house. Sue's teacher was busy working all the time, so she was worried that she was having trouble and asked questions. Ensu doesn't know how to lie. That's the right country. Zine called to ask for a foreign language job, but because it was too chaotic, he did it. Bats in clothes just met. So Dien immediately understood that XN Su was being attacked. But when he thought back to his best friend's previous actions, he felt that he was not qualified to share them. Meanwhile, Zine was not angry and asked everywhere to find out information about the incident. By comparing information from broadcasting stations, the team familiar with the area was told that magnetic signals appeared at the station about to be located. Following the relationship, we discovered that the young police officer was the most suspicious person. This police group only has a large financial burden on the family. On top of that, his father is also seriously ill and needs a sum of money first. He also discovered that the young policeman was both a policeman and a leader in the counterinsurgency organization. After the police caught the suspect, the case could have been closed. But the young police officer who knew the truth of the matter did not want to let this new drug turn into a bat in the hands of the poor like that. Immediately, he tried to encourage the police to continue investigating. The police found out that the case still had many suspicious points, and that the court's attitude towards snakes and lovers had to be quick to close the case. As for the whereabouts of the new drugs, I keep telling them that they have been sold abroad. Unable to disobey the orders of his superiors, but in his heart, he still did not obey the young policeman, so he secretly pointed the name of the counter-general organization's cage at Gem to catch the young policeman. He had spread out the line to lure him out of the line. But unexpectedly, the person who appeared at the detention center was the police officer. Meanwhile, Sue's classmate's mother was still actively pushing for the installation of cameras during the investigation. For her, only when she was told that Sue's place would actually be served. The word she had stored in her hands had a different meaning. She didn't dare to refute in the crowd, only that she would later reveal evidence that she was a traitor. Right when the other mother was resting in a peaceful place, she followed closely, so she took out a photo from her phone to bully her and asked everyone to come down to pray for a real baby. But then I thought back to her fierceness and forced people onto her chest. Before that, she understood that even if she bowed her head and prayed for life, the other person would not let go. In fact, she grabbed a cigarette butt and was about to hit her body, snatched the phone and left it in her mind. At that time, there was only one student thinking about words that could not reveal her strong intentions. But what she didn't expect was that in the mother's dialogue, there was only a photo that could take her home when she was building the project. There are absolutely no images of her and her husband transporting oysters. At this time, the animal realized that the mother was not a sea beetle. Jiang Qin Gao discovers that the real insider of the Fang Tun organization is not the young policeman but the senior policeman. Trung Jiang's police officer, who had flaws in his character, repeatedly used violence when performing official duties and was sued many times without destroying his position. As a child, he was far away from the cold, although he had a premonition of killing, so he was not angry when he was born and decided to catch the traffickers. But just a few days later, they were released from the wind and remained untouched. All colleagues felt extremely uneasy, and the policeman's inner feelings were also spent changing. The author took charge of this unfair world and felt even more remorseful when his hardships were not given the proper response. Also from the beginning, he believed that love is the only way to be fair and the way to survive in this world. Jiang accidentally discovered Mr. Evil's secret and realized that the person who committed so high was also the policeman. Mr. Ta believes that the union between a flute player and a grandmother is extremely perfect and highly secretive. As long as he can't control this line of people, Mr. Ta will have an endless source of money. Because of this, Mr. Ta has brought joy and gratitude to many people every week to give Mr. Ta $1 million donation. In the future, Mr. Ta will become Mr. Ta's most lovable bodyguard, even though he knows about his relationship with the president and understands that his purpose in doing these things is to deceive. Under GM President Kang's billion-dollar plan, after using a powerful drug, he began to have a constant vision of seeing countless cockroaches rushing towards him. He even lost control during the group meeting and used a fountain pen to blind his hand during the early group meetings. An intentional person filmed his unusual actions and spread rumors that the group's next in command had a hidden drugstore. If Kofu of the group plays the guitar, it will not be difficult to stretch the bamboo tree. Kiem appeared at the right time, and the tense chairman had only difference in his eyes. As for the medicine, it was completely right according to the predestined advice. On the other hand, it turns out that the mother is not special. But I discovered that she was also using the medicine I sold. At that time, before she could even hit the cigarette but with a cock, she fell to the ground and was not happy because she had used too much medicine. The child quickly took away the remaining medicine and left the scene with the child. Just after calming down, I returned home and saw my best friend watching the progress of a home-cooked meat dinner for me and my daughter. This statue made her feel so bad that she had to fight for her life in this house. Never thought that my wife would have to face the possibility of being taken over by others. The mother's drug addiction spread to the point where everyone, including her professor, felt embarrassed. Ensu suddenly appeared and agreed with his daughter's natural mother. She will help her dispose of the drugs and die because the police cannot find her. HOA will never know the source of the drugs and of course cannot accuse her. Even with Ensu's perfect plan, the other mother had to look at her with different eyes. Ensu immediately went to look for food and warned that the police officer had noticed the mother's drug use and started to investigate. Following this, finding the two of them is only a matter of time. Po asked Mao Trong to stop selling things, while Jeep asked for the young policeman's name. Unexpectedly, I felt that the hidden person was married to someone who had been murdered. Faced with Unsu Jeem's doubts, he appeared hesitant. According to the plan, the police developed that the insurance was eliminated as an insurance option for Jeep and him. Edge revealed that he fell in love with Jeem and found a way to use medicine, so that once everything is done, all the faults will be saved. He decided to follow the police's suggestion to hide the fact that he had found the sea beetle. Because of the existence of this ship, they were confused for a long time because the sea ship had not been found yet, so they still found that place. Because of this, the two of them did not have a loving attitude towards family members. Saying that she has no other choice, the only thing she can do is follow the above option. The newspaper team was urged to set up a joint sales strategy that was no longer profitable, so the monks had to follow suit. Like this time, her inner self had changed. At first, she sold because she wanted to save this family. But gradually she discovered that since gradually entering this path, her life has become increasingly happier. There were so many differences that he couldn't even express himself to his family, and he gradually became frightened. Fong is still a little old woman, living every day worrying about fixing the room. One day, by chance, he saw her coming back to the car, saying that out of curiosity, she followed. Dad discovered Zem and a man coming out of a large building. After learning about the car, I realized that these people were not ordinary people. There is also a question at the end about investment and the warmth of the used car company. At the same time, Sue also discovered that Zem has a close relationship with the base name. Remembering the first car relationship in the house, Zem thanks Sue. Guess that's all. Zem does things related to the base name. Because of the lack of appetite, the continued occurrence of insulin will eventually make the person still angry and frustrated. The young police officer always felt that things were not as simple as Bin Hoang Kor, so he personally went to interrogate the middleman of the fraudulent organization that he did not cooperate with. It was only when the dog tried to kill the child that he brought up a photo of the lying Sao Hill that he summoned people to come down and talk falsely. I was also curious as to who had harmed him and was caught. As the young police officer's investigation of his father deepens, he gets closer and closer to the truth that the police chief. She tried to stop him from continuing to hunt, but the young police officer reversed the previous results of bringing her father. Hello. The person who redistributed this new drug is basically incompetent. The young police officer's sobriety shows the sheriff that the county is determined to be the district he is. As usual, he still pretended to agree to let him continue to send his father invisible and aware of the near-term danger. As for the close bridge, he is still enjoying the kindness of his superiors, so he feels even more blessed. Pham said that he didn't think that as long as he had enough money to buy the house, he could reconcile with his wife. Everything will return as she did not expect when he stood in the rain waiting to meet the monk's wife and children. He saw that there was another man next to his wife. I learned that my wife had a plan to take her child abroad to live. Phamsat Attorney General said that if he wants to gain the rights to his entire child, he needs to have a house and money to sue. Therefore, he must prepare all relevant documents before his wife completes exit procedures. The police department said that the regulation will gradually increase the sales progress, informing them that from now on, every week he had to prepare 2 million soldiers, and his bad luck on time was unmerited. His lips changed a lot and showed his beauty. The night was about to bring a huge benefit to the appointed time. After a few years, my brother invited me home for dinner for the first time with close friends. If Zem's mother was extremely prosperous, even the ghost fruit Zem had to prepare for her grandmother. Not knowing whether or not to accept the meal, she would always look worried as if Zem was a god. The moment she touched Zem's hand, she was afraid that she would lure his hand away and immediately change it. But when the situation was difficult, she took advantage of the opportunity to go eat with her father and marry the family with Zem like that. He patted and patted Zem meaningfully as if to satisfy Zem, who understood that he was still not accepted by this family. When he stood up to leave, he had the opportunity to immediately hear his mother's heart. She could not accept him because he was once a vile person. Zhang felt extremely complicated but still pretended like nothing was happening and calmly attended. Remembering what my brother said, I needed to have enough money to buy 2 million soldiers to buy the last part of the bet. Meanwhile, the killer palm is also waiting like a tiger for the night to decide on a sacrifice. He ignored the request to try to disperse drugs to collect money. Ensu realized that he had been trapped in a dark cat that did not reveal anything and did not hesitate to wait for his fate and fate. In fact, she cut off all means of communication and brought medicine to find love, making her even more forceful to reverse the situation. Must have received GM's signal when the police showed that he was still angry at his job. Zhang, why didn't he find the right system to calmly appear in front of everyone? She soon saw through all the police lovers that they were still playing porridge in exchange for hot water. Iansu just felt that it was ridiculous that this fate was the reason why she had to endure such a huge windfall to be able to control it. Why do we have to bring in another person for free when 3 partners with their own goals finally face each other with their true faces? However, even though I had planned ahead to find a way to live, I never expected that in order to make money, my family would turn to Korean. Faced with the police officer, even though he didn't seem to care, he asked him even if he had to take him away. Even though he squinted his eyes, he realized that he was in dire need of money and his heart became calm again. Let them tell you that they both want a region where she can bear all the burdens of the wind while Zen Nguyen herself has the eyes to catch gold, which is completely impossible. Bin generally looks for black fish to be close to them, indicating that he is planning to take action against Yen Rong. The ruffian warned that if she didn't eat everything within the next minute, someone would report her to the police. Nowadays, causing the fish to not act without thinking, using one and the same name, these 2 goals of the ruffed feathers have completely caught the eye of the police. At the same time, Dong also made his superiors give up the idea of turning her into a scapegoat. Now that I know I treated Unsu wrongly, I quickly want to resolve the matter. But she didn't want to hear a word. She was completely disappointed in Jem. He was the one who most closely watched her family situation and difficulties, but still had no intention of turning her into a summoner. A Hong chairman warned Jem that the drug must be released as soon as possible. Jem has always had in hand the distribution channels of the drug, so even if chairman can stop him and forgot, he still had to be a little appalled that he was grateful that even though he proactively went to Chairman Kan to explain his relationship with GM and even showed him the goods he had in hand, only then did Chairman Kan realize that Dean was nothing more than a middleman who arranged to eat on the price list. Because in order to ensure that everyone eats well, the president still needs to buy antidote. But he didn't have the goods available, so the president threatened him to try to get the goods, or else he would switch to cooperating with the company. Zhang has worked hard to plan for many years to succeed in the day ahead, and he does not want to give up. But the closer you get to success, the more you encounter. Zhang and his brother planned to only need to hold a part of the company's share so that the chairman could take over the entire company. Fong said that the chairman suddenly discussed the situation of his wife, causing his wife to manipulate the company's mind for 1 billion souls. Zhang's brother believes that these are impossible cases and wants to give up. You and Hugh and GM don't need to reveal yourself like that. Sooner or later, you'll be forgiven for your mistakes. But I still feel unsettled every time I think about being punished by the king a year ago. He wished that he could kill true President Tay Kan Than Cham Man Fo Jian, who was a young man who went to the vegetable garden during a love affair, when he and his classmates visited Tru Thai Nan Kan's dinner together. During that day, he was cheated on by a woman, which caused him to become the murderer in a murder case. Zhang Ko tried her best to explain, but before calling it the truth, even his family didn't believe him. Zhang felt hopeless in the future and wanted to stop playing, but then his lover saw her in the market. The main culprit is the chairman of the gang, who is calmly answering questions from the media. From that moment on, the burning fire flared up in his heart, and the revenge plan began in the first place. After being released from prison, what he did was go to Ankh. He told me his plan to pretend to regain his glory. This plan required my jealousy. From then on, day and night were devoted to teaching and painting, and at night, they crawled into the darkness to begin endless work. To get back what was lost, no matter how difficult it is, I will not give up. After completely cutting off his relationship with Jeonsu, he began planning to leave. Po Tin only sent instructions abroad for her daughter and her 2 children. That's why she thought about cooperating with Chairman Kang, the only person who can buy such a large amount of goods at once. Little did she know that the day she was planning to leave the dangerous place was also coming. The birth star went to the hospital for a follow-up examination, and the results were not very positive. At the hospital's safe hour, his classmate's mother was admitted to the hospital. He suddenly remembered the time when the policeman would come to the police to inquire about the situation that was most special to this mother. The false birth star may have some connection, and when his classmate's mother returned home, she had absolutely no time to care about Zojin's illness and only hurriedly packed her things. Zojin was worried that Mr. Su would leave, so he asked Mr. Su, who didn't want to tell the truth, but felt grateful. Po only hoped that Zojin would follow his arrangement and take his daughter abroad. If I have the last chance to tell you the rest, I will definitely explain it to you. The more you think about it, the more uneasy you become, until money is everywhere. Finally, he found the sorcerer's uncle hiding in the car of the fake ones in the French village. The creature was extremely disgusted and even more embarrassed and regretful was watching in his head. If it weren't for my own weakness, I would never have taken the risk of doing legal things. On another change, Soi Hai's younger brother reconsidered after his coma, shy to be conservative. He seemed like a lot of people drove cars into me that night, which was thanks, but at that time, the ungrateful monk of Sohyun's in Chai family took away the picture of the monk's family. The nurse came to the school to follow Sua when he saw the scene of the monk and his daughter interacting so warmly that he couldn't help but go to treat the yellow eye area or that. If it weren't for the teacher's gratitude, perhaps right now, he would still be living happily alone, and he wouldn't be alone in this life. Sohyun's and Chai was so grateful to the teacher. So Bang Mao let the evil Ko try to experience the taste of losing his loved one, and the evil follow him until it comes out without a way. And it turns out she accidentally became a mutant. When Sua finished her work and prepared to go home, Sohyun's police arrested her and called her to help her. At this time, Mr. Su had just received the president's voiceover and was filled with satisfaction. If only by tonight I would have enough money for my husband and daughter to go abroad. So she ended her daughter's calls at the same time, because the occupied area has nothing to offer. The trader was so worried about the scandal that the king returned the price to the young assassin. To put it simply, He accepted bribes from the former leader and also provided information to his opponents. The child murderer was therefore brought under investigation when the prosecutor presented a whole lot of evidence in front of him that no matter how hard he spoke, he could not defend it. In his heart, he also completely understood that the longest words of love were the last words of his lover's love. This excessive action of the detective also made the young police officer's long-standing questions become unsettled. From beginning to end, the main traitor is that the master cat is behind everything. The young police officer was angry and could not control the people who were always concerned about being an example to follow, but unexpectedly soon turned each organization into a dead policeman. When he saw his body again, he immediately went straight to throw a punch. The traitor is completely unharmed in the new place, and the person he threatened you should completely recant. If the people want to receive filial piety and want to go to the family and live in peace, then the path is still limited. Because when he arrived at the family garden, he was silent and easy, thinking that the only thing he needed to do was to deal with the child's life. Even if you burn all the evidence related to it, you can still elevate your I'm asleep. Fong suspected that the mother of a classmate was pretending to have temporarily paralyzed her body because of medication. Because he didn't think clearly, he did the most convenient way. That classmate also couldn't stop showing up at school. But the mother above fell ill with this classmate and had everything wrong with her milk supply. One day she felt lucky and was happy about her extra salary. Out of curiosity, she quickly followed her and retraced her journey as a human being. That day, after following her for a day, her classmate went to the next station to arrange security. When I became a teenager, I saw the person in the photos that my classmate had taken and was so angry that I burst out laughing. If you are sad enough to keep the secret of the sale of goods without being discovered, you will have to go deeper and deeper and continue to use local authority to suppress the results of the sale. The police officer, after learning of Suo Hong's secret situation, reconsidered and went missing, so he immediately checked the surveillance camera. He discovered that this person was moving very quickly and stopping as if he wanted to get somewhere. From then on, he assumed that he had the intention of revenge against his brother. The first thing the policeman looked at was the suspect, so he worriedly looked everywhere at the same time. Therefore, he could not bear to reveal his identity but immediately went into the house to stop the scene. At this time, the actor realized that it was San Su and Jiam tried to talk together, and it turned out that they were carrying out an illegal copying. All his previous doubts about his wife had already come to an end, and that was a wake-up call for Kim because he was already on the far left. Then the animals hated the taste of the medicine or the coins and towels, demanding to destroy them. Xian was angry at his ancestors, thinking that everything was going to be a waste of money. If it's not a birth defect, bankruptcy if it's not a birth defect or a serious illness. Thank you for never having to treat yourself like that. Even though what you said is true, you still want to warn me when you get it. Ready the game. Add a little water and put away all the medicine. He was about to turn away and accidentally heard their daughter's call for help. Sua was in danger and couldn't listen, so he hurried and went to the destination where Sua had sent her to teach her mother. At this time, I'm preparing the Sua high to make it bigger. Sua was held tightly while the storyteller was searching for her mother's medicine and politely called her to ask for help. It was quiet at that time. The milk was flowing with their men. You should have forced the last few hours to even turn off the power to satisfy. When the president gave out 2 billion in cash in front of her, she was so happy that she couldn't say a word. I'm sure this is a shortcut to the minute system without even knowing it, and my daughter is in trouble. Chairman King looked at the unprecedented appearance of Shushu and felt unwell. He agreed to give the money on the condition that the coin favor must be filled with coins. He happily agreed and even felt satisfied. Luckily, Jean had never revealed any important information to her so frankly. I don't know anything about cricket. I felt angry at the president's words and called my juniors over. Not only did he want to end the relationship, but he also didn't want her to take his love away. Luckily, she was prepared and warned the president to be careful with words when dealing with sentences. If not, don't touch her. Her cold eyes have made the president nervous so she can get the money and leave. When I got in the car, Mr. Su quickly rang the phone and only then saw the message from the girl asking for help, meaning it was strangely broken. Sua risked her life in front of the door and her student's words could not move him. Right at that moment, the young police officer arrived and suddenly found the killer's writings. But he was angry that the police officer was not his opponent and could only be elected. But he saw that the police quickly tried to abandon the child as if he had been caught again. Seo Huan's younger brother plans to continue attacking the river and destroys the river mouth. When he looked at Seo Hoon's brother's face, he realized that this was one of the people who had captured his cousin in the past. His anger flared up and he rushed to attack like crazy, seeing that Jam gradually fell in love with him. At the moment when he was about to be unable to try again, a young police officer just woke up and suddenly woke up. Remind him to attack his unhealed wound so that many crickets will have a chance to write poetry. In my free time, I lost my child and accidentally encountered a police officer waiting outside the door in the morning. From the minute I saw this policeman's heart, he came up with a new plan. When Kien Suo brought the child to the police station, she only saw that her daughter was injured. Among the two people who were also involved, her face was full of scars and the police officer was the one who denied the crime. The thief immediately realized that he had been betrayed by another person who easily took out Suo's hidden drugs. The guy was so scared when he saw them that she couldn't believe that her daughter had accidentally become her seller. If you don't know what your pain is, the medicine looks like this is already involved in the method of peeling off the scene, so it's easy to use this to intimidate you. The name changes all the living conditions to make it easier for his daughter. This set of ups and downs will easily make you never want to sell again. But the police officer said that as an experienced person, he saw the fear of the visit of the past year in Grace's eyes and knew for sure that she could not really stop. In the end, Sue also admitted that she had started selling to cure her illness, but after enjoying the hidden life, her thoughts soon changed. Po also wants to live a better life than someone who wants to live in a big house and live like a wealthy person. Thank you for looking at your inner thoughts. The police immediately punched you with the truth. He told her that the day she asked this question, her life would completely collapse. The girl will have to go to school under the guidance of the late emperor, who passed away within a year of being left without love. So in the end, you will also be grateful to the stream of herbs that have an undisturbed income. In the end, her status as a shop assistant will be made public and she won't be able to stop talking about it. NSU was not happy when everything she had risked to get ended up falling apart. She didn't want to give up the little path she had in her hands and didn't want to end up in ruin. Now he did not mind accepting the favors. With a look of disappointment on his face, he made a decision to make him proactively admit his friend as a way to express his desire to cooperate and invite the favors to join hands to combat the murderous situation. The person who was having a headache trying to solve the problem a minute ago has calmed down. Instead of the player waiting for the killer to easily turn himself into a sacrifice and take all the medicine and money by himself, just by proactively taking the initiative to use the killer and the line, and they will once again become partners. GI bought a dozen or so soldiers so that the master could monitor the money chutes and bring them to the police station. The officer took advantage of that opportunity and beat the policeman. I asked him to go to the sea for me, so I went home to prepare everything. After the birth, the corpse returned from the hospital to the police station. He doesn't want to see his wife go deeper and deeper into the far left and praying for her life to have anything to do with medicine anymore. The monk looked at her appearance in such a way, I'm on the right side of thinking. She had so many snails that her long-standing illness completely exploded. She is the only one who is born, the door to the source of all the ancestors' mistakes, and the light of the person who pushed her down into the abyss of greed. For many years, she had let her husband's very best friend help his family and mother's friends, thinking it was his special good deed. Every time the baby caused trouble, she silently took care of the whole family, but in the end, when the baby fell ill, there was no one to help. I can't control it, but I'm sure it's because I have to try to be next to millions of shops. I never thought that such hurtful words could come out of my mouth. He only felt that his wife had changed and found it impossible to stop the debt from violating her ancestors. Geo-sin stipulates that he will kill himself and take the family's decision to report to the police. Around dawn, Ian-su fell down and hit his head hard on a rock. Ian-su didn't even have a plan to give her husband a marriage certificate, but was in a hurry and hesitated to leave. In her heart, she thought that if she could just get through today, everything would go back to the way it was before, and she would be so scared that she would get involved. After giving the drugs and money to the police, Sue became worried and waited for the people who had contacted him before to beat him up. But the drug dealer still hadn't appeared yet and had already stopped his leprosy. At that time, the police easily divided the medicine into selling it to the chairman at such a low price that he lost all plans to save the medicine from the chairman's house. From now on, when singing the rubber scene, be a little more reasonable and don't take any further actions. Seeing that he was not allowed to call for help, he decided to take action from the region. His actions were soon seen through by the police. Turns out, the police had already installed listening software into their phones for 2 years, keeping all their actions in their hands. The couple's beloved has been cheated on by the police and has no intention of leaving anyone alive. As long as he was defending himself properly, no one would take responsibility for him even if he and his wife came out later. At the foot of the book scene, it is easy to protect the peace and sadness in the youth. I went down and wanted to call the police to look back or not give up the drugs and the situation. In the end, she made a decision to meet someone again. Keem and the police posted that there was a decision and the police had put down the first thing. As soon as he moved to end this war, Ian got back into the car and rushed forward. The light from the harp threatened them both and made them unable to open it. When I heard it, I immediately understood the price of Ian Down's plan and saw in the stroke on one side. The police officer was not able to stop, but he was hit by Nang Su's car and flew away. Nang Su was extremely nervous as he saw that the police officer was still in a small relationship. In a hurry, I walked around and looked at the police station all year round, walking around the land. His eyes were filled with the fire of character and wickedness that he had spent many years carrying through his life. Despite so many accusing eyes and betrayals, even his relatives abandoned him. Let the police know that staying alive is a risky business. As long as he's alive, his plans could fall apart at any time. He clenched his fists as if he wanted to pierce his palms. In his mind, the meaning had to be translated to the very edge. But Ansu's words were like a bucket of cold water pouring straight into his soul. One knows that GM's original version was not recorded to prove his innocence. If, out of defensiveness, you end up with your mother, all your previous efforts will become meaningless. I came up with a plan that worked both ways so that he wouldn't harm the fish's life, but only used threats to keep him from killing the fish. At that time, Diem was drinking alcohol in the police officer's office, preparing to defend himself. When the lover returned to the hospital and learned about this incident, the young man, regardless of his injuries, forced him to go to the office. Faced with the change in family's fortune, it's so frustrating. GE said that he wanted to protect himself from a situation and at first refused to eat, and then he received a text message. At first, the police thought that with their ability, they could make people not believe his words. She will still keep her police position and have a good image in the eyes of her colleagues until she experiences a video that brings back the police's dark past and immediately prepares to force her to fight the rest of her life with these traffickers. You still have to reserve your rights and continue to live. Finally, the police agreed to your request to investigate Ui Su's trafficking case. The name infers a reference to the trip to the village and is related to a treatment facility there. But reconsider your plan to continue trading green medicine to earn enough money to complete your plan. Seeking capital, he planned to divide the remaining medicine and money in half with Own, but when he learned that he urgently needed 1 billion as capital, Sua gave all the billion she received from Mr. Kang Chao, and Joy is extremely grateful to have this amount of money. His brother will successfully take over their part of the company, arranged to the extent possible to please that family. But the joy didn't last long. Mr. Kang suddenly became speechless and went into the house to reveal the two brothers' plot in front of everyone. The police officer still felt bad for threatening him. And we also know that So GM has been hiding his mouth for many years just to show off his revenge. Just getting back to the plot of Jiam Jia can make Jiam run away. The anger that she is facing is more important than a mere ruin, but Mr. Kang will definitely repay his killer brutally. He doesn't need to take action and can still sit around and watch. The truth was exactly as she predicted the day she learned James's true identity. Mr. Kang has been investigating him in a big way. Visited James's house and saw his brother's wall full of cockroaches. Mr. Kang immediately ordered his juniors to clean up all traces of information related to him, including videos. James Liu in some records recorded him using drugs. After preparing the river to decline, immediately made a phone call to report the case, and James came right in front of him. James was still in a classroom saying goodbye to the students. The police suddenly forced and arrested him on charges of stealing goods. The news of his arrest caused a riot in the school's gang. The woman who always appeared as the child's nanny naturally also became an object of suspicion. Ian Vuong was extremely upset and wanted to immediately send her away, and her daughter, who was planning to go, didn't want to go anymore. When he learned that his whole family was about to receive it, he was extremely anxious and ran to the organ. On the nights when Dian and Insu quarreled with their best friends, they saw Insu hastily accepting the pills below. On that day, I understood what kind of business she had engaged in to cure her illness. His best friend wanted him to stay and not leave her behind, but he quickly said that he wanted to be by his side, and in his urgent situation, he wanted to express his feelings for him, but the words didn't reach his lips. So Dian actually knew his best friend's feelings a long time ago, so he told her frankly so that her best friend wouldn't have any illusions on her tongue. She was destined to be his friend, but he was afraid of her true face. When her fate was still in practice, all her manifestations were very precise. But filming with her was not allowed to be an official employee, all because her best friend used a large driver's license. Seeing that Ian Fate's opportunity was destroyed, her best friend was still holding on to an illusion. "Hi," Zazin said. "It wasn't my leg," because he had feelings for her. Zazin frankly said that he was silent not because he felt like he was keeping a secret that made people find out, but because you are a blessing, it will cause a terrible double shock. Losing both my career and my friendship at the same time hurt so much more in one episode. She was the one who held the warm thought of wanting to take everything away from her. She also realized that she was no longer a comedy supporting role that the drama had completely ignored. The chaotic plans that she had clearly laid out in Seojin's eyes were not because he was spoiled, but because he had eyes. Now, she no longer has a chance to save everything of Yen anymore. She felt like there were thousands of irregularities covering her body. Seojin, instead of sticking his nose in the wound, changed his mind and wished for peace. The vaccine rim is a little lighter, leaving the heavy rim on the shoulder and living freely without worrying about anything anymore. He forgot that she turned herself in. Even if she had to face the law, he would stay by her side and never move, never give up, never disappear. The future sister has a chance to be peaceful and believes that as long as the family is together, everything will pass. Seojin's evil kindness made him burst into tears, trying to obey, but the game wasn't over yet. But the drama doesn't stop there. The police are ready to suddenly appear. That afternoon, Zim had guessed that one step after being confronted by the police, he would not lie down like a poked cat but would hesitate to take action. Zim is secretly found by a police officer who will understand him by investigating the huge amount of cash the police are willing to hide. Following what DM and the police officer told him, he found the policeman's house. While sitting there, one of the main objects in the flashback scene suddenly made sense. You will corner the idea and even a picture of the cost of fighting the total amount of money in the army that appears as difficult to predict in the transfer of the accumulation of injections as in the association. The police officer will immediately notify the prosecutor's office, and they will open an investigation at lightning speed. Facing the police station like a professional actor said. Everyone else dismissed the prosecutor as not believing that the evidence presented was the evidence to convict him. Pui also said that being arrested on the way to be escorted to the hospital, he was a monk who had been punished because he had a medical condition in the car and that the monk was not an old man. Up to now, Zhang does not deny even his illness that, at that time, Kok tried to save money and the price was subsidized, so it was a matter of seeing the monk taking the blame. But the leader he once respected is now like that in Volume 4. He greets the people of the country. But so many years of sobriety made him only try to talk to people to make it sound like the last explanation of someone who was still a little American. Zhang did not hesitate to put an easy-to-hidden clip under the chair to open the door as if in a magic trick to rescue him, using uncontrolled medicine to escape. Because the driver lost concentration, he crashed into the row of birds and the sparrow immediately crashed like a river and suddenly jumped up, instantly killing everything on the spot, causing everything to come crashing down like a sudden explosion. From that distance, he lost all his motherly vision and filled with allure and violence every now and then like a runaway. On the way, the girl came to the house, but at the right time, the rescuer came to prepare to take her out to defend herself. He immediately stood in front of her like a policeman that he would do something to hurt his wife. That guy gave a punch that made the girl so happy that she looked at the police officer full of violence and knew that, I can lose control at any time. It feels like I'm standing in front of a fire that no one can put out. In order to protect himself, he took the initiative and was just about to leave when he suddenly encountered Sua as he entered the door. An evil plan appeared in his mind like a mushroom. After the opening, the guy saw Grace thinking about his family. Anger flared up in his eyes. He said that he had destroyed everything he had. He didn't deserve happiness. He quickly pointed his gun at Grace. So Jin, using all his strength to spin and shield for her and without realizing it, they were right at that moment. After changing the name to change the target to the girl, the Favis rushed to the shield for her daughter. Right at the moment he got there, he realized that he had run out of bullets, and the match was like a virtual game with no ending. He looked at her mysteriously, saying that she had ruined her family and felt that it was fair and satisfied, so he left, leaving the mother and child in pain. The monk had just passed the wedding ceremony and was arrested by the police because of some sad feeling. As soon as Sua passed away, she immediately looked back at her mother and said that she was so sad that she couldn't accept it or even refuse to see her. Pocock believes that the only thing he can do is to not let go and harm his father because of the continued pain and suffering. But it can't be explained like a person left in the rain without a shelter in the interrogation room. She and his counterpart took all the blame alone. Fong gave her a chance to open her mouth, and he understood her difficult situation and her love for her daughter, so she took the risk seriously. As the second sentence of GM and Sue said, the sentence was reduced, but the police officer still did not feel satisfied. He searched everywhere but could not find any trace. So this guy came up with an idea to create a metaphor that appeared by opening the ansu and making each of these ideas make both of them agree to immediately open the ansu to be difficult and thirsty for 10 nests. Fong had a hard time trying to defend herself because her name was really very expressive to everyone. After a while, the Jiang police received news that Sue and GM had captured his son. Immediately rushed into the beach that the young policeman had already set up without any hesitation. Seeing his colleagues swing a gun at the new police officer, so that's how I realized I was spectacularly wronged. Ensu did not miss the opportunity to greet him and announce that he was about to lose his mother. All plans to gain power over the country's military are as clean as soap bubbles. In the attack, Mr. Ta does not control the flow of work and the streets like an action movie on the road. When Jiang loses concentration during the heroic family, the two people struggle between worlds in the car, they rush to the end, they lose control and crash into a shelf. On the occasion of Jiang's unconsciousness, Jiang escaped and Jiang regained consciousness and immediately continued to talk. Just as he was about to take action, Jem appeared just in time to keep the situation from turning into a disaster. As for the young police officer, he jumped in to stop the police, causing the gang to go into the country and disappear. After that, Ong Su and Deng started a year when an Ong Su appeared brilliantly every day and only wrote letters to his daughter, not expecting to have a real child. But only when hope can send a challenge button in the heart to continue or practice and change the passion and fire. When she was lucky enough to be in prison, Sue remained silent and her close friend became her daughter's legal guardian. I still feel grateful that I took the initiative to meet my friend, but I didn't expect to be told by a common guy. It was this friend who told her she was sad right after their relationship. Faced with betrayal, "Thank you for asking if you ever considered yourself a friend." Sue's words made her cold and she realized that she was so jealous that she wanted to replace him. Her position, she finished thanking Sue gradually returned to peace not long after the end of Dian Mang. He gratefully thanked the owner for all the remaining items for her. Fate decided to start over from scratch, sell the house and move to a new place. On the 17th, on TV, the police learned that the deceased staff member had been found with blood wounds on her. She secretly felt that the performance of Cho Gio had been completed when GM's plan of Cha Thu was also near the river. The president thought that General GM and CU were the river. But one day, while proudly launching a new product, a video of him using shiny bread was released. Zine appeared so full of challenge that he performed a facelift to the point that he wanted to crawl under. Although Kang claimed that the video could not bring him down, he responded that this video was not meant to be taken down immediately, but for the company to handle on its own. Even though things happened exactly as expected, the group below was still so stressed that they unsuccessfully asked for help from their grandfather. The scent of his own excrement got his girlfriend entangled and caught everyone's attention. The case was also overturned just a year ago, but in the end, his grandfather chose to abandon him. And the prison was still ordered to take medicine and passed away, sometimes sitting and acting, then completed. But the player relied on the contemplation and thought that a happy life would begin. As life isn't as simple as it seems, Kim discovers in the police station a copy of his secret milk, honey, fruit juice, and corporate page. I just realized that I knew he was pregnant, but he was born with a faulty spermatoria when he was born, to prevent the birth of him for years. Boredom and boredom are rising to the surface in the sad life of a ridiculous life. Suddenly, Mr. Su discovered in the painting a package of medicine that had not yet been confiscated from Bin Tin, a drug dealer. But his hands and feet were on the lemongrass juice, and in his mind, the thoughtful face of the part-time job owner appeared, wondering whether to continue on the path of self-pity or return to normal life.